national recruiting analyst, Brian Dohn. Brian, I'm adding transfer analyst to your title now, too, because we're going to talk about that with you. Let's start with a North Carolina corner in Tony Grimes. According to his dad, he's seen over 300 schools reach out to him. And according to Brian, what's the latest on his recruitment? When can we see a decision?
Well, I think we're going to be a while before we see a decision, and that's kind of how this transfer portal is built right now. It's not built for quick decisions for kids that haven't long plans going in. And so with Tony, I spoke with his dad maybe an hour before we got on here, and he's in the process of still trying to set up visits. Right now, he is not going anywhere this weekend. There's some schools. Penn State's involved with them, Florida State, USC, Colorado, Oregon, Virginia Tech, Georgia, Texas A&M, South Carolina. I was also hearing that Syracuse was involved because of defensive coordinator Tony White, who I'm sure you guys have read the reports. There's a chance he winds up at Nebraska. So if Tony White winds up at Nebraska, maybe Tony Grimes takes a look there. But one thing to keep in mind, and I'm not sure a lot of people realize this with transfer kids, is it's not just ending in 2 weekends for them. There's a window open from January 4th through January 8th. And in talking to to Tony's dad today, Deon Glover, he said that there's a really good chance he'll make a visit or two during that window. As a matter of fact, he said maybe 3, but I know sometimes Deon's ambitious with that stuff, but at least 2 visits in that window.
Brian, you're all over the map when it comes to tracking all this transfer portal movement. We're calling you the Tyler Adams of recruiting analysts. Let's get into Kent State wide receiver Dante Cephas. He has an official visit scheduled with Penn State this weekend. What's the latest on him?
Yeah, he's going to make that visit. The plan is he could not get there on Friday, so he's going to go in Saturday and leave on Sunday. Listen, he's a kid who really had a big-time year in 2021 at Kent State with 82 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. Production dropped off a little bit this year, but that's more due to the players around him. A hot topic in terms of when you're talking to people about receivers. For me, I think he could make visits after that. He has nothing set. I don't know if he gets out of Penn State without committing, though. He's got a couple former teammates who are on that team. It's the in-state school. For folks that have not watched Penn State, boy, they need some explosion at the receiver position. I think he's a kid that offers it. He also brings size with it. If it's not him, maybe if it's not Penn State this weekend, maybe he'll visit Georgia, maybe he'll visit West Virginia or Notre Dame. He'll have a lot more options. But I know in talking to people the last day or two, the feeling is it's going to be tough for him to get out of Penn State without committing, just because, like I said, in-state school, a big need. And listen, everybody talks about, hey, you can be the next Jahan Dotson or maybe Chris Godwin or whomever. So there's a lot of things leaning Penn State's way on this one.
And they have been hurting for wide receiver talent ever since Jahan Dotson left for the NFL. Well, it was a chaotic day one of the portal opening for business. And quarterbacks really headlining it. NC State quarterback transfer Devin Leary getting a lot of interest because of what he did back in the 2021 season, those 35 touchdowns and just 5 picks. So who are some schools that we should keep an eye on for him?
Yeah, I think with Devin, I know I anticipated it moving a lot quicker than it has, and it really has not. I talked to his dad about it for the last few days, and the latest was he is not going to visit anywhere this weekend. And it goes back to what I said before. This is tough. They went in the portal on Monday, and it's like speed dating. And so they got to figure out who they're going to. Are they comfortable with the coaches? Are they comfortable with the offense? Are they comfortable with what the coaches are saying about the depth chart? Because for Devin Leary, he's got one more year. He's got to go somewhere where he plays. So, when you ask about schools, Notre Dame's involved. We'll see what happens with them and Hudson Card. Auburn has reached out. UCLA, who's looking for a quarterback, ideally a transfer for 1 year. South Carolina has reached out because you want to see what's going to happen with Spencer Rattler. Kentucky has reached out, even though I keep hearing about Graham Mertz with Kentucky. And then, Oregon has reached out too because they're also looking for quarterback help. But you look at a guy like Devin Leary, and he's coming back from a torn pec. He had surgery. In talking to some folks, he's not going to be able to start throwing until February. Ideally, he wanted to go to the NFL draft. If you can't throw until February, that kind of puts a crimp in that in terms of workouts. Last year he was amazing, 35 touchdowns, more than 3,000 yards against 5 interceptions. like I said, got hurt this year, had the surgery in October. Also had a broken leg 2 seasons ago. It was at 2020, if my math is right. So there's also a little bit of injury concerns when schools are dealing with them.
Brian, Maryland transfer CJ Dupree, one of the better tight ends available in the transfer portal, is scheduled to take an official visit to South Carolina later this month. Are the Gamecocks the only contender, or who else is in the suitor list for CJ Dupree?
This is how this stuff moves. He's going to be at Alabama this weekend on an official visit. And, he is a kid that has made a big move in recruiting. He was a quarterback in high school, and the plan was to go to Maryland, play tight end, develop there. Well, he developed. He had 30 catches, 314 yards, was a reliable receiver in short yardage situations. And Blair, this is going to sound a little strange, but don't count out Rutgers on this one, because when he decided to go to Maryland, it was between Rutgers and Maryland. He ultimately chose Maryland. Well, he went in the portal, and Rutgers coach Greg Schiano flew down to the D.C. area and spent a few hours with him having dinner earlier in the week. And the word I got was he was not going to make an official to Rutgers because he had already been there, knew the program, and had a great relationship with Schiano. So we'll see what happens when he gets to Alabama. Alabama, as you guys well know, it is tough to turn down the Crimson Tide when you're looking to play on that kind of stage. But we'll see what happens.
Hey, you mentioned Rutgers. Great transition to my next question. Former three-star corner Jaden Bellamy is transferring from Notre Dame with 4 years of eligibility left. You have the crystal ball in for him to end up at the aforementioned school, Rutgers. So what's the latest with him?
Yeah, going through the process, they went out and visited with Bellamy out in South Bend. He was also with his family back in New Jersey. He's a legacy for Rutgers. His dad, Jay Bellamy, played in the NFL for a long time, played at Rutgers. When it came down to it, the relationship, again, that Schiano had with the family was really strong. At the end of the day, Jaden picked Notre Dame. He got past a little bit on depth chart with some other corners that went in at Notre Dame. From my understanding, he was not totally comfortable there, looking to get back closer to home. I've heard Pitt involved with them. Again, Syracuse, we'll see what happens there with Tony White. Boston College got involved. Penn State, which was one of his finalists when he was going through the process, also checked in with him. But if everything goes as it's supposed to, I expect that he'll wind up at Rutgers.
Elijah Jeudy, another big name in the transfer portal, the Texas A&M transfer, has 4 visits already set up, Brian, including one to Colorado in January. What's the latest on Elijah Jeudy, and who else besides Colorado is in the running?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to what I said before about how it's almost like speed dating. So he's going to be at Nebraska this weekend and check him out there, and he sees the depth there, and he thinks he can get on the field early. From there, he's going to go to Boston College for a midweek visit that starts Wednesday. It's going to run Wednesday to Friday. Then he's going to go, well, right now to Syracuse on that, Friday to Sunday deal. And then he's going to sit back, evaluate some things, and he's going out to Colorado. It's in that June 4th to 8th window. He's not exactly sure when it's going to be. One of the defensive analysts, Coach Williams, who was at Texas A&M, is now at Colorado. So there's the connection there. But it goes back to what I said earlier. There's a lot of things that these kids, and you guys see how old I am, so they're all kids to me. But you see how these kids, are forced to really make these quick decisions. And hey, you go in the portal, I guess the flip side is you go in it, you deserve that you have to make a quick decision and be thankful that you have that option. But if you look at Elijah Jeudy, who said during that window in January, he could sneak in another visit there as well. So we'll see what happens with him. But I'm really curious to see how it goes with Nebraska and then also with Colorado, to be honest.
Yeah, you called this speed dating, not the first time we've heard that reference. Our friend Coach Carl Reed also referring to it as speed dating, so that means that you're also a dating analyst now, Brian. Thank you. I appreciate it. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Brian Dohn 247 and read his work on 247sports.com. Don't forget about this, our signing day show on December 21st. We will have wall-to-wall coverage on the 247 Sports YouTube page. Here's a hot tip for you. Subscribe right now while you're thinking about it, and you will be ready to go for that big day.